floor was one of those really thick rubber floors, not the parquet floors, but the real thick, like 4 feet of rubber. And all of a sudden, I saw 6-foot waves inside that floor, and I was like, I got to get the fuck out of here.
Dude, wow.
But yeah, so sorry.
Is that like a doorway thing? So like, I come from Mississippi. You obviously know Chris comes from Bama. We don't have fucking earthquakes down
They're
there, man.
scary, man. I mean, we had duck and cover drills twice a year growing up in elementary school, right? Like, there was that.
So did you get in the wind? Did you get in the door frame? And I
so
only know
no,
that
we got out of
Saved
that.
by the Bell.
Yeah. So you right. So you get door frames are great. Under desks are great. Or you get out in open land, right? Because you don't want things to collapse on you at that point.
What about sinkholes? Would that be a threat? And this are like
yes.
Don't things like
the sinkholes completely happen.
What happens if the ground opens up? Like, and I got
there were a lot of sinkholes that happened from that.
So how far do you fall before you die?
I think you go to China.
I mean, that's the only thing that makes sense.
Logically speaking,
Kyrie Irving would beg to differ. I think.
No, he admitted recently that. Do you see that?
He apologized.
He apologized to science. Exactly.
It's like, I'm sorry to the teachers that had to explain to their students.
All right. So
we digress.
Backtracking from
that
our.
was a digress. That was a perfect tangent to go on.
I agree.
Earthquakes
I think we've discussed
and
meteorology
safety.
before.
Yeah, perfect.
So
we're in Chicago right now, probably around 2011.
Yeah,
That was a
and
good
so
time.
did things work out with this lady?
Yeah, they did. She still sleeps in the same bed I do.
Score.
So yeah,
That's the Miss Verrier we're talking about.
That's
I like how
Kira.
you did that French.
Kira Verrier right there. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so we have 2 children as well. So yeah, things have worked out pretty well.
Okay, so we're in Chicago.
Yep.
And then
So we got 2 restaurants at that point.
Right.
And then a little kind of side gig that we started getting at that point in 2009 was C3. The producers, promoters of Lollapalooza, Austin City Limits out of Austin, Texas, hit us up and asked us if we would come vend in 2009 because they wanted to try to curate it a little bit more, get away from that traveling gypsy that would just go to Restaurant Depot or Cisco, buy a bunch of frozen shit and sell it. So they asked us to come do that. So we went out and had a cool menu of like 5 items, sold to the masses, and then we also did a 5-course tasting menu for the Kings of Leon that night.
So quick question about a Festi. Like, obviously you're not the Cisco. They changed it up.
Yeah.
And that was one thing. Like when he told me that y'all worked together at a recent food festival, and we'll get to that. I was going to ask, is a festival food set up like similar to a festival set list, where it's like you bring just the hits? Like it's just 3 or 4 of your sliders that are really good. You just smoke a bunch of butts or something like that. What goes on to a festival menu, or what was on that one that tickled their fancy that turned it into a possibility?
So it's all about understanding your guest. I think no matter what style of food you're serving, it's always about understanding what your guest wants and what they need in that moment. And so when you're at a festival, you have to put yourself as a festival goer. Like for me, I'm a huge fan of music. It's my number one hobby. So I've been in those situations lots of times before I actually was able to vend in that situation. And putting things on cones and in sticks where you can eat it with one hand became our go-to. So we developed the lobster corn dog that year. So we literally took claw, knuckle, and meat. And this is in 2009. So we've all heard of lobster corn dogs. Back then, you didn't really hear of lobster corn dogs.
I've never heard of a lobster corn dog.
There you go.
I'm still waiting for this. Shut up, Chris. Let's hear about it.
So we took the lobster claw and knuckle and rolled it with transglutamase, which is meat glue, right, into like big roulade torchons, portioned them up, battered them, fried them to blonde, and then froze them and served, refried them. And I had a staff of like 13, 14 people working 12, 14 hours a day. And we were able to do like 6,200 lobster corn dogs.
Yeah, 6,200.
Yeah.
That's a fuck ton of corn dogs and a fuck ton of lobster. How many lobster did you kill?
Oh, Jesus. Luckily, they were already claw, and knuckle, and we didn't have to do that whole process because that would have been horrible. One of our servers actually told me, like at the last day of prepping, that when she walked home through her alley, she looked behind her and there was like 12 fucking cats following her because she stunk so bad.
There's another joke to be made.
Yeah.
We're a family,
exactly.
somewhat family podcast. It's not fucking true. We're not a family podcast.
No, nobody's listening.
Yeah.
So So lobster corn dogs
Yeah.
at Lollapalooza.
Yeah.
So just to think, what time of year is Lollapalooza? That's during the
August. It's the first weekend of August every year.
Okay, and it's roughly like a 3-day festival, or is it longer?
So it was a 3-day festival. Currently, it's a 4-day festival.
Is that Humphreys and Moe and those? Or
No, that's like summer camp. So this is like Red Hot Chili Peppers, Metallica, Paul McCartney, Eminem, Foo Fighters, Mumford & Sons.
So
what's your jam? Like, what's your band of choice?
I'm
genre? Let's go genre.
Genre
for live music. I don't want to
jam bands.
Okay. Well, I'll ask some rapid fire questions about that later. I just want to know
Copy.
the genre.
So Lollapalooza, like what you said, you cooked a 5-course tasting meal for Kings of Leon.
That first year in 2009, when sex was on fire.
Okay, how old were you then?
How weird is that guy?
Was Kings of Leon? Did you know how to talk to him, or was it just overwhelming?
So the coolest thing about Lollapalooza, and probably what draws me back to it every year, is the amount of problem solving that needs to happen in the moment. Restaurants, for the most part, do a lot of that, but when you get on a festival and there's 100,000 customers, guests around you, it's not easy to go buy something if you're short, right? So you got to problem solve. So they were playing on one side of the stage, one side of the festival, which is about a mile away, truthfully. It's like a 20-minute walk, right, from stage to stage, 25 from backstage to backstage. And so we're getting ready. They finished their set. They're coming in 5 minutes, so we fire the first course, which was scallops. I can't remember what else. So we're searing it, and all of a sudden we get a radio call. There's too many crazy fucking fans. They don't want to leave, so can you guys do the course, the meal down here? And we're like, yeah, totally. What do you guys got for a kitchen? They're like, well, we got a coffee pot burner. And you're like, shut the fuck up. So at that point, we said, okay, cool, we'll make it happen. So we send Graham down there. He goes down there. He's chatting. We finish that first course, and we send it on 3 golf carts, right? So I send one person, golf carts, 3 others stay back with me. Then we do the second course after they tell us that they just cleared the first course. Send a person, 3 golf carts, and then finally I left about 50 minutes later with the desserts. So we played it out of a restaurant a mile away, which is, in the middle of a field, right? A restaurant is a tent with cooking equipment. And so at that point it was like, man, this is really fucking cool, right? Like, this is you problem solve. Yeah, exactly. You just got to cook for the bands, and they're super stoked. They're asking us if we want to get high with them, and all that kind of stuff. And it was amazing, and it was at that point you're like, this is something that's fucking cool.
Yeah,
it's just really fucking cool.
Yeah, and you roll
about that when I was in high school.
Exactly.
Normal college. There was cool shit like that.
Yeah, rolling up to meet him in a golf cart with dessert. Yeah. I think you were pretty fucking cool.
And then being so stoked, right? Because you got to remember, they're also at a festival, right? And they've, for their whole career, have eaten shitty catering in festival, right? No one's really curated a meal based on their likes and their allergies and all that stuff that we would do at fine dining restaurants. But this happened to be at a big festival. So the cool thing is that they were so stoked. They reiterated that to their tour manager. Tour manager reiterated to the artist relations manager for C3. C relates that to the bosses. And they invited us to be the culinary mayors of Chowtown and cook for headliners every night at Lollapalooza after that 2009 experience. So
that's legit.
I just celebrated my 10th year of cooking at Lollapalooza this year.
Nice.
Yeah. Who's your favorite? All right, now we're gonna dive into another hole.
I got some great stories from it.
Now we can do. We'll make this an hour or 2 hour long. Who has the weirdest food requests or
Of course.
I want to know all about who likes to eat what? Who's the weird vegan?
The band with the most outlandish requests you've ever heard. What's the top?
Is it chef's choice?
So a lot of times it's really trying to give them a choice, but also kind of make some suggestions at the same time, right? So I think Metallica had a funny one where Kurt was like, well, Kurt's vegetarian, but he was in France one and it had an unbelievable coq de vin. Do you think you could make that? And you're like, what the fuck are you talking about?
So he's not a vegetarian.
Right. So that kind of stuff is goofy.
Sounds like half of Denver. Well, I'm vegan, but I eat fish.
I'm gluten-free, but I did enjoy that bagel roll yesterday.
I'm keto, but I eat cake. Keto is.
Yeah, it's a diet fad today. It's going to go right next to the Atkins pretty soon.
All right, so Metallica isn't quite sure what vegetarianism means.
And then we cooked for Eminem, and that was really amazing because his whole family came from Detroit, not very far from Chicago. So Haley was there, and she was like 15 years old, and you're like,
She's a smoke show now.
This is fucking weird.
She was when she was 15, but I'll go out on a limb and say she probably looked like a smoke show.
And so that would be illegal to say that.
Well, then I will edit that out.
Yeah. No, you can say it. I'm just gonna deny or confirm.
I'm saying she's a smoke show now.
Okay,
so
perfect, great.
Yeah.
Who knows about when she was 15?
Yeah.
Because I'm not saying that.
You didn't hear it here.
So, this was also before Graham had surgery. For those that don't know, Graham had a stomach surgery. He was over 400 pounds, really healthy, having a hard time just getting through life. So he went the surgery route, and he ran. He still runs, and so he's lost 150 pounds, which is amazing. So this is when he was still 400 pounds.
Jeez.
And Eminem's bodyguards, no joke, he's 6'3", Graham's a tall guy, and so they were taller and wider than a 6'3", 400-pound man were. They were literally human shields, like the biggest dudes I've ever seen in my entire life.
Do you think those guys are also strapped, or they're paid to take the bullet?
Both. Both.
That's
yes.
fucking cool.
Yeah, both.
Man, I can't wait.
And they were, they were absolute sweethearts. They were fans of Graham. They knew, and they were just sweethearts. And luckily, they were on our side, right? And so, cool thing is M gets off stage, and all of a sudden you see him compress into that Rabbit character from 8 Mile, where it's this really shy, diminutive, small guy that doesn't act like he has a bunch of confidence, and he just literally played for 80,000 people, hyped up as can be, right? And he shook everybody's hand or gave them a hug before he took any food, made sure everybody was good, was as calm and quiet as can be. And he comes around, and we had lobster corn dogs, of course, right? Because that's what we serve everybody, just because the musicians, they're lobster corn dogs.
I'm going to find them.
And we came to find out that Eminem had never eaten lobster in his entire life up until that point. So he ate a lobster corn dog and absolutely loved the lobster corn dog. So we took Eminem's lobster V card that night, which was super crazy.
Do you swipe a lot of those? Famous people.
We do, actually. We take a lot of lobster V cards because it's funny. I think when you look at a lot of musicians, most of them are those uber creative kids, right? That come from uber creative families that don't have a lot of money, and a lot of them are poor upbringing, right?
Right.
And so when you get all of a sudden an inflush of money, it's not like you say, I want to go eat lobster. You're just like, I want to eat my comfort food whenever I want it and snap my fingers and, it'll be there. I heard stories of him on his first European tour would have his homies from Detroit ship him Burger King overnight because the Burger King in Europe wasn't the same as it was back in Detroit.
Fact.
So, right, but so he had that money, right? And so that's what he chose to do instead of going out and eating lobster. And so that year, Sean Parker had just released Spotify and built the dopest tent I've ever seen in my entire life. 50 by 70 feet. He spent $35,000 on the floor, hand-hammered wood floor. And we had a table in there that we were doing a 4-course meal every night for a band. And so the last night, the Foo Fighters were closing. And I was talking with their tour managers and trying to get them to come over to eat dinner. And I don't know. I don't know if they're into it. And I was like, dude, just trust me, please. Everybody that's come through this has had this. All these musicians the years before that have done this, rave about it. I promise you, it's not going to be weird.
You're pissed that you don't do it.
Exactly. It's going to be fucking cool. And he's like, okay, we'll do it. Go in, blow them up, super stoked, and I go out to say thanks to Dave, right? Thanks, Dave, for making it. I really appreciate it. So I went up and said, Dave, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Merlin. cooked for you guys tonight. He's like, wait, are you the dude that makes the lobster corn dogs? Why, yes, I am, Dave. How did you know? He's like,
why did you ask?
I got a text from Eminem last night at midnight telling me I need to eat your fucking lobster corn dog. And at